Hey guys, welcome to another episode, and we have our first guest ever today, the man himself, Carl. We'll jump into a bit more about his background and what he does in a minute. But yeah, we've got another big week of kind of ecom chat, and excited for the first guest. And Carl, if you kind of just want to give people a basic intro into what you're doing now, and yeah, kind of your background in having work. I know you've worked with some cool e-commerce brands. So yeah, any background that you can present to kind of set the scene for anyone listening in the e-commerce space would be.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me, by the way?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, for the past year, I've been working with like content marketing stuff, like content creation for a few different brands, but like the one that stands out the most might be Celsius, I think. I worked as a consultant for this company here in Stockholm where I helped them with brainstorming ideas and coming up with fun ways to launch new brand or like new flavors for the brand and then try to get the brand out to different countries. So I was there on the launch for Finland and for the UK, for France, for New Zealand and Australia. I don't know. Have you guys heard about Celsius before?
Yeah, so obviously, so the people that aren't aware, it's a pretty well-known energy drink now. I guess I see it, especially in the US market. I see it pretty heavily, and I did see in one of your animations that you did, Carl, featured the man himself, Jake Paul, right at the start there too. Um, your kind of animations have kind of made it across some pretty big names in the online space. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to find out more about kind of one, what it's like working with those brands, and when you talk about brainstorming ideas, like how does that even start? Like where does the idea of throwing a Celsius can and through a shark's mouth, like where does all that originate from? Like, are you coming up with that? Is it a team effort? Like, how's it all work?
Yes, I don't want to take 100% credit for it. It's
That's
obviously
all right.
not
You can you can you
just
can take
me.
100% on this show. It's all good.
All right. It's basically I'm friends with a guy who started a company last year in January, a production company here in Stockholm, and like they didn't have any real experience doing like production or like content marketing specifically, other than one of the guys being an influencer here in Stockholm. So he's famous in Sweden, but I don't think he's famous outside of Sweden. So I wasn't the one who actually sold the project to begin with, but I was there like pitching ideas um, pretty early. And then they asked me to do smaller jobs, and I end up doing more and more, and been a part of brainstorming and doing animatics, and then animation for pretty much all of the projects since then. But these guys are like crazy. The production company, their work ethic is like off the like out of the window sort of stuff.
I think
Yeah.
it'd have to be to kind of like for the names that kind of appear like to work with Celsius, you'd need to have some runs on the board, I'd say. I mean, I
Mm.
saw Jake Paul. I think I saw David Dobrik in one of the videos too. Was he in one of them as well?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I can tell you how that sort of came about.
Yeah, sure.
I know exactly how they did it. It's really interesting. Starting out with like a new production company or a new company, it's usually really hard to get like the first clients. And then what I noticed when I had my animation company a few years back was it's really hard to then amp up the quality and like get bigger and bigger projects. Getting I don't know, like a 20K project, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's easy to sell something for $1,000, but like then getting up to the higher levels, it's much harder. So what they did was it's really smart. They started by doing something really small, almost for free. They got the client to open the wallet, but it was basically like the smallest tier project. They went out to do a film for events or like take pictures for events for Celsius. And then every time they delivered in the deliverables, they always added this extra folder where it said, "Oh, we did this as well." So for the photography like event photography project, they added some videos, like video editing and videos they could use. And then for when they start buying the video editing and the recorded content, they started adding another folder, which was how we made this 3D animation for you. And then every time they delivered something, they sort of stepped up and stepped up. And like this is supposed to cost this much, but we'll give it to you included in the price this time. So every time they bought something new, the price went up, and the quality went up, and the quality went up.
Just almost over delivering, aren't you? It's that element of goodwill
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I like it.
They all overpromised. It's interesting because they overpromised on the first project, and then they overdelivered. And most people, they're like under promise and then overdeliver. No, no, no. Overpromise, overdeliver. And then, yeah, and they got to the stage where, because they got a brief from Celsius, like, we want to do this. Can you make that for us? With the 3D animation, that's how it started. And then I'm like, we can do this like this instead, or like what if we did this instead? And then they started sending my pitches over to, like, we were like brainstorming together. So it's not just me, but they were sending the pitches over to Celsius and showing animatics that we made. And that got them stoked about, or like saw us in a different light, essentially showing that we could deliver on even the ideas for the project. And at the end, like at the end of last year, they just gave us like full reins to pitch and produce launches for like Australia, New Zealand, France, UK, and it ended up being like we went from doing like maybe like a simple can just superimposed in like next to Big Bang to making shark animations and spaceship animations with David Dobrik and Jake Paul. So that was within a year, which is crazy. I've never seen that before.
It's amazing too, and I think there's a pretty big lesson in that too, but for e-com owners and for service providers as well. I mean, coming into the game, I think, my first client was like this like 2016. I think my first client was like $500 a month. It sounded, small at the time, but a year later they were my biggest and highest paying client by a very, very long way. But then people from the outside see that, you're working with this brand, like like the competitors Carl may have seen, or they're working with Celsius. What they don't see is the value that you provided on the way up. So they're like, oh, how did they land this brand? Like, we can just pitch them the same stuff, but what they don't see is like the come up and the value that you've provided on the way up to like build those relationships and kind of work with those, big brands. So it's the same with e-commerce too. Like a lot of the time you like, especially apparel brands and things like that, you don't see the work that they've done in the community or the influencers and the people that they've connected with to help launch their brand. You don't see that groundwork. You just see, oh, like this company's doing, 250,000 a month, and they're like, who's their marketing team, who's this, who's that. But what they've actually done is they've usually got the community behind them before they ramp up, and they've put all this work and goodwill in at the starting phase to go and kind of launch the way they have. And by the time people are trying to replicate what they're doing, it's too late because they don't do that. They don't do the goodwill and the hard work up front. They're trying to copy where they're at now, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, we saw that as well, where we did something that we sort of figured out was working really well for Celsius at the time. But then we sort of moved on, like from the superimposed stuff where, where we put a can in a real video. We quickly went from that to doing like the higher end sort of Marvel-esque animation stuff. And you can now see people doing the superimposed stuff because that was working when they looked at it, it was working then. But it sort of goes out of style, or like it's not trending the same way anymore. And now they're looking at the next thing we did. And I'm not saying that we were like the one that paved the way. Like we saw other people do it. That's where we got the idea from. But you have to like keep evolving it, I think.
Yeah, I think the worst place to be, especially in the e-commerce space is like playing catch up with your competitors. Like you want to be
Mhm.
the one that's trailblazing, kind of innovating and thinking of new ideas. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely a piece of the cake for people that do copy brands. I'm not saying that there's not. There 100% is, but if you want to be kind of a market leader, then yeah, you need to stand out. But if all you want is a small piece of the pie, then yeah, essentially you could just copy what other people are doing. In terms of, I'm not sure whether you were privy to any of this, Carl, but did you ever see like the impact that your videos had on like impressions or sales or kind of, I'm trying to look at it from, okay, so if an e-commerce company is wanting to get kind of these animations done, what are the kind of outcomes that they can expect? Is it mainly, are you measuring by video views on certain platforms? Or are you seeing how many sales come through for certain things? Like, are you involved in that, or is it just more creating creative based on briefs?
My part was more creative based on briefs, but we asked for like the data so that we could see what our results yielded, essentially. But we never got it. They always push like, oh, maybe later, maybe later. Oh, so we never got the results from it, but they kept ordering stuff. So that's a sign that it has to have been working in some way, at least, I'm guessing. But
Do you
it's hard because like I split it up as like if you do like explainer videos or explain or like marketing specific videos, that's different from doing brand specific videos. And with brand stuff, I don't know, do you find this as well where you do brand stuff, it's harder to see or like analyze the impact of it because you're growing the brand maybe more long term than you're doing it like short term.
Yeah, I think any kind of awareness campaign, which is typically what videos are harder to measure because it's so top of funnel that it kind of just gets people. It's almost like that first touch point to get people aware of the brand, and the attribution models that track everything these days. Kind of, if you're absolute top of the funnel, you kind of get screwed in those attributions. But
Mm.
in terms of like the animations, and even the people that don't know, Carl, you did have like kind of an explainer video company beforehand as well. Like in terms of where people are at their e-commerce journey, I kind of would look at if they're getting animations done, they're probably a quite established brand, and they're looking for more of a premium service rather than. Would that be right in saying, or do you get kind of inquiries from like all levels of e-commerce? Like where potentially, like I've seen another reel that you did, which was kind of a, I guess, a skateboard, and I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a really cool animation that would look amazing on a product page for an image, when they're scrolling through the different images, to have like a video like that
Mm.
at the end of the sequence. But then it's like, well, if if a brand has, 500 products, what would they do? Would they pick their best
Mm.
10 and kind of get animations done for those? And then, yeah, where would you see your service kind of fitting in with kind of different e-commerce brands, and kind of, I guess, like from my own curiosity, kind of what kind of price point clients would typically work with you guys or with you, because you're starting your own animation thing recently, yeah? Is that correct?
Yes, I decided to break off from doing that with them specifically. They're doing it really good, like in their way, but I have the way when I was working with the animation or explainer video stuff previously, I really loved the idea of automation and building systems and having all of that. And I'm missing that now when I'm doing consultation instead. So I'm going back to doing that myself, and I'm crafting an offer based on what I saw was really, really valuable for big brands that tiny or like smaller brands or like newcomers in e-commerce could use as well. So this is something like the animation stuff that we did for Celsius. It's not necessarily just for big brands like Celsius. I think with the stuff that I learned from working with this company, where I was consulting, was highly valuable information. because I was talking to the creative directors in both like Sweden and then international Celsius, right? And then I was talking to the CEO in Sweden, and you got a lot of insight on what's important for a brand on social media and how they can use that to build, I guess like a better reputation, like make them look better and like stand out. Do you want me to go through like a quick what that would be?
Yeah, I think for people listening, I think if they're listening to you and you're like, and they're thinking, yeah, I'd really like to, make my brand stand out through animation. What does that look like? What does it entail? Like, what's kind of the turnaround time to get something like that done? Like, kind of all the questions I guess a brand owner would have about potentially exploring those options. Definitely.
So what I saw that worked really well, and the stuff that the creative directors taught me when I was there, was the way they did animated stuff, like the animations, the 3D animations we were doing. You have about 1 second to hook the attention. So you want something like a visual hook up front, like off the bat. The first thing you see when you
Like Jake
scroll
Paul
down,
throwing a can. Was that the
yeah,
one for the
exactly.
Celsius one? Yeah.
Yeah, you see Jake Paul, you're like, okay, I want to know what this is. What is he doing standing there next to his pool? And
Yeah.
then he throws it. So that's like the 1 second thing. If it's within a second, then we have then hooked them, because now you see like a flying can on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That was number one. The number two thing is retention. So you want to keep the attention on the video until you click off, the people click off. If you get people clicking off before the video is ended, that's going to be a problem for your retention, because you're telling the platform that it's not interesting enough. If they click off or like keep scrolling instantly, well, that hurts retention as well. So that's going to harm your platform as well, or like that's going to harm your account as well. So it came down to those two things when it came to like retention and hooking. Then they had a strategy specifically for animation where we called it the hook, tease, and reveal. So you have 3 videos when you launch a new product, or if you want to like boost a new product, maybe boost the sales of a new product. So the first video is hook. The second video is a teaser video, and the last one is a reveal video. The way we structured it was we made a hook video, a video that sets the context, but we never show the new flavor or the can. If we show the can, it's like very slightly or like silhouetted. That's the hook video.
Blurred out.
Set the context. This is something weird. I want to know what the next thing is, so that you then follow and you then wait for the next iteration to come out, which is the tease video. And in the tease video, you can do it in different ways, but we usually did almost like a static video where like the camera angle is not moving. Maybe you can see like leaves like sort of swaying in the wind, but something is covering the new flavor. It's like hinting, but you can't really see it. And it's almost frustrating how close it is to you finding out what it is. So now you get people into the comments like, oh, maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's a relaunch of this one. Maybe, oh, I saw this in the US. They did this in the US. So now you get people talking. And then you have the reveal video. And now you go balls to the wall, all out. This is supposed to be like the coolest animation with like things flying out into the camera, and like you want it to look as sexy as possible. And so when you look at something like this sounds super expensive. But depending on how you do it, it doesn't have to be like the super expensive high-end stuff. You can go on to Upwork or Fiverr to do stuff like this and pay maybe, I don't know, $1,000 and get 3 videos like this. So like for $1,000, you can get like a launch video like this, or like a launch campaign like this. Then you put it on TikTok, you put it on Instagram, and then you can then sponsor one of the videos or like all 3. And that would be like the recommendation for the campaign. And then, of course, the more you spend on the creator, the better it's going to be for hook, the better it's going to be for retention, the better the flow is going to be in the video. So the retention and the hook is going to be working much better the more you pay, if you're paying for quality.
Are you talking about the person making the video, or the creator that you put in the video?
No, so I'll get to the creator and like the UGC sort of content as well. the creator, like the animator, you spend on. Like you can either
Gotcha.
spend the money on my friends, the production company, and they have a lot of intel and a lot of skills when it comes to that stuff, and you get massive value with a lot of information on what this is going to do for you. They know exactly how to hook. They know exactly how to tease it. Professionals at doing this, and it's like a big team now at this point. They've grown so fast, these guys. Or you can go to Fiverr and pay like $1,000 and get 3 videos. And that person probably don't know the strategy. They don't know how to hook something or like a visual hook, or they don't know how
Punching it out with
pacing.
AI.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of things you need to keep in mind. So if you go there and you know exactly what you want to ask for, you can go onto Fiverr and do it. And maybe the render quality is not top of the line, but if you don't have the budget, you can do this for really cheap. So that's for the animation part. Then what they did was they did product photography, and then they had, so like in a studio, the product in a studio, maybe a hand like pulling out a can. They did UGC, like influencer marketing. They brought in Jake Paul and David Dobrik, and not only in the videos, like the animated videos, but like standing by themselves, like its own sort of video. And then they did event stuff and they did other photography. The value came when you built the brand around it. So building the brand awareness, like showing how fun it is to drink Celsius. If you drink Celsius, you're going to be partying with these guys. It's going to give you energy to have like this sort of energy. You can go and like bungee jump. You can work longer. Like it gives you like a lifestyle, sort of a mood board for what your life could be if you drink this brand. And that's what they are trying to do
I think
now.
on that too, like I think they made a smart strategic play on where they put the products, because I kind of became aware of Celsius, I guess, from product placements on some podcasts that I was watching on YouTube. Like
Oh, yeah.
it looked like they went really hard on product placement on creators and podcasts and that kind of thing too. So yeah, they were like a show up everywhere strategy. It was the omnipresence
Yeah.
strategy, and yeah, they just did everything really well, I think.
Yeah, they're really good at marketing. Like these guys, like branding and marketing, it's on point. But they have great people doing it for them. I'm not talking about me specifically. I'm talking about like creative directors and all of the
They have
other
this
people.
great animator named Carl who just heads up everything.
You know, they make games as well, like mobile games. Did you know this?
But Celsius,
Right. So they have, I can't tell you some stuff I can't tell you about, so I'm not going to mention what it is. But it's because it's not launched yet, so it's not
Ah,
official. But yeah, they made games and they made the animate stuff, and they like experimenting, but they're also very strict. Like it's an American brand, so we got this. Maybe Sweden gave us like a brief, do this, and then we start working on it. And the big sort of gods from Florida came down on us and like, oh, we can't do this anymore because that's not in line with the brand. And like doing this much content, you learn what the brand wants and what you're not allowed to do. So sometimes when they launch in a new country, that creative director might have like they usually gave us something where I'm like, we're not allowed to do this. I know that we're gonna get the gods from Florida to come down on us with this stuff. So I recommend us to change this into this instead. So now you're an expert in the brand as well.
yeah, interesting. Did you have like do they provide like, what do they have, like a branding and style guide, like for all
Yeah.
everything that you have to put in the video, like, and if you saw it, like how many pages is it? I'm always interested on like the style guide for large brands like that.
Yeah, I got a style guide. It wasn't like the longest style
Oh,
guide.
that's good.
I've seen,
Some of the
we
ones
work
I've
with
seen
other
are ridiculous.
companies. Like if it's like a car company, like that's wild. Like that we did a thing for a car company and like a charger for an electric car company.
Yeah.
And I got the style guide and it's like a book, like a coffee table book. You're like, you flip through that, you're like, okay, I'll just stick to this one page. When I do you choose the page you want to focus on, like, and if this is right, and then you can just like make sure that you haven't done anything else wrong. But yeah, sometimes it's complicated. With Celsius, it wasn't too complicated, but
Oh, that's good.
instead they come with verbal feedback. I was like, oh, we're not going to be able to do this.
I think on the creative side, like you've got kind of experience across everything, Carl. I've seen this little skateboard thing that you're doing. I know you were working on kind of those vertical plant stations at one point, weren't you? Yeah. I mean, you've done so many different things, which is why it's interesting. And like in terms of designers, like I'm talking just graphic designer now. Like you're probably one of the best I've seen. Even back in the day when you used to, we had like a mutual mentor, Timothy Mark. You sent me like a little silhouette of myself and him when we are on a call. I was like, this is so freaking cool. Like, how did you do this? Like, you've got an amazing eye for kind of design. And yeah, I think you did a couple of logos for me back in the day, and some of them I still use. Actually,
I do.
I might, I might hit you up soon for a rebrand on a few of my other things. But I mean, in terms of creativeness, like you're up here, man. So how do you find it as a creative, like running the business side of things for what you do? Is it hard or is it draining for you? Because I can imagine, like for creatives, they kind of just want to do the creative, which I guess is probably
Mm,
what you enjoyed when you were working at that other place, was it? Just being able to focus on what you enjoyed and not having to, sit in corporate meetings, closing deals, sales calls, all that stuff. You were just able to do what you were good at.
yeah, it was nice not having to focus on doing all of the calls and that. But the way I work is I don't like just like I want to be a part of the whole process. It might have been because like I got into it early, like that's how I had to start. I had to be on every call. I had to be like I had to send out the briefs and like I had to do like the offers and stuff. I think because of that, I feel very uncomfortable not knowing all of the data before I jump into something. And I've become a control freak and I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah. Don't worry,
I went
I know exactly how that feels. So you're not the only one that does it.
Yeah, I was on a meeting with a couple of friends, and I saw when you sort of your soul sort of goes out of your body and you watch yourself talking to
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt really bad for them because I was started like criticizing like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, and I don't like this. Like I started changing stuff in the company. I'm like, oh, no, I need to be quiet now. I can't. But when you see stuff that is not working, you get frustrated.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I think that's.
it's a. Oh, you go, Charles.
No, I was going to say it's probably it's you know that type of personality. It's still. I remember when I was in a job where I ended up getting frustrated, and eventually I left because you want to change so many things. You see the opportunities, but you don't have the reins to do it. I think that's why so many people go out on their own,
Mm,
even if they for a spell they maybe go to work for someone else. They still have that desire to be able to do their own thing and control
yeah.
the whole process. So
I think
yeah, you're not the only one, Carl. We're all very similar in that.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
even when you specialize, so for example, like myself working in the Google Ads, when I'm working with a client, you look at their account, you're like, oh my gosh, their meta ads are horrible, their email marketing's horrible, this is horrible. You want to fix everything, but then you have to rein yourself in a bit, and you're like, no, like I'm only in charge like of this, and this is what they're hiring me for. But then, yeah, it's like once everything's in motion together, it just works so much better. And
Mm,
yeah, it's hard sometimes. I literally had this conversation with an agency owner last week. I was like, "Oh, I'm working with this client. The Google Ads is doing really well, but it's just like if they just fix like their email marketing and these elements on the product page and this, and like during our strategy calls, I'll talk about it, I'll consult about it, but it's not a service I offer. But yeah, it's hard. Like you want to and I've said to them, it's so hard. Like I want to do everything, but you can't because the minute you get sucked into doing everything, you start getting all this kind of bespoke stuff that isn't in flow with what you usually do, and then you can't service your other
Mm.
clients how you're supposed to be because you're out of flow and you're spending so much more time on this other thing that wasn't even in the scope to begin with, and kind of has this rolling effect. And I think, yeah, it's something that I've definitely become a lot more aware of the over the years. But I mean, there is one brand that I work with where I oversee everything, and it's probably one of my favorite brands to work on because you get to, it's almost like what you said, Carl, you get to be with it from the start and see it come together. And yeah, it's a nice feeling watching like those results kind of explode. And this particular client, like we started with them from scratch, helped them with the website initially, and so they went from zero and they're just below 100K a month mark now. So
Oh,
yeah, it's been a
it's
it's been a cool
crazy.
process to see. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from about wanting to control a lot of things, Carl. It's difficult for me too. I've had to learn to let it go. But in saying that too, nearly all my clients have horrible email marketing, so it's a
Mm.
service that I'm going to add hopefully in April. So yeah, it's coming in April. We're kind of doing some case studies and stuff at the moment. And I think about you sometimes, Carl, because I'm kind of trying to learn everything just so I can bring people in to help me with at some point. And sometimes I'll be sitting in Figma, like trying to design an email template. I'm like, oh my God, how do the creatives do this all day?
That's terrible.
It drives me insane. It was like something that takes me probably 2 hours, Carl could probably do in 5 minutes.
Probably. But it's also like I also hate like there are some things that I will never do. Like when people ask me to do a website, I'm like, no, thank you. Like, do you want to do like I don't know UX? I have a bachelor's in industrial design, which incorporates UX as well, UI UX. That's the worst thing in the world. I hate it. I don't want to do it. It's like the best paid of all of the stuff that you can do. It's UX UI. No, thank you.
Well, out of everything you do at the moment, like how do you rank that? Obviously, you're an amazing graphic designer, but are you doing much of that anymore, or do you just like to focus on the animation stuff?
So now I decided to. It's complicated, but my focus this year is just to get this off the ground. Essentially, I believe in this sort of what I explained as the hook, tease, and reveal. I believe in that package so much that I think every e-commerce company should use it, implement it in some way. And I'm not saying that they should implement it by hiring me. I don't believe that's the right option for everyone. I think what they should do is like just understand that content is king. If you don't post stuff at all, you're not going to get eyes on your product online. There are places where your clients are going to hang out, whether that's TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You need to know that. That's number one. But then understand like marketing strategies, like hooking someone or like pattern interrupt or be relatable in the content that you do and like ask for the sale. So many people never ask for the sale. That's crazy. Like when I've consulted for production companies and studios, and you ask them like, oh, how many people, like I only have this one client. I don't know like how to get the next one. How many people have you reached out to this week? None. Okay. So that's your first problem. You don't have traffic.
I was just
You can
about to
have,
ask, like, what's your strategy to build, Carl? Like, with your skill set, are you just going to like pick random brands and do like some creative and have like a massive show reel of your skills on Instagram, or are you going to have to build a personal brand? Like, what does it look like for you to kind of grow this animation thing? Because I think it's one of those things, if people know about it, then they're likely to seek out your services. But from your end, like, how do you grow that? Is it on TikTok or is it on Instagram? Like, what's your strategy? Because, I mean, I'm heavily in ecom and on the general marketing plans, like, getting like an animation, like, probably wouldn't make the first page, but it's probably because I haven't been exposed to a lot of it. Whereas you've
yeah.
seen the benefits of it, so having that as like a launch offer would probably be really high on like your marketing list. So, how do you get your services out there? Like, is it just showing people what you've built and then going from there? Like, or is it building personal brand? Obviously, you'll get out to I don't know, maybe 100 ecom owners on this show. So you're starting somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's I know how long it takes to build an audience on a platform. Like you can easily count on a year of you posting regularly, like high quality content. You're not going to see a result until like after a year. So it's a long investment for someone to do it. And where I believe I can be helpful, because that's how I see it. Like the way I would sell is not posting necessarily and hoping that someone's going to come to me. It's me going around and giving as much value as possible, not asking for anything back. And if I do that enough, I think that's going to yield work for me. Like I already have been doing that for the past 3 weeks, and that's already started to show results. Never asked for anything. I just like show them, like I look at what they're doing. I ask them some specific questions, and at the end of our meeting, I just tell them like, this is what I think you should do. If you don't think you have time or the capability to do it yourselves, I love to help you in some way, but you have to understand that I'm not the cheapest option. That's the truth. I'm not going to be like the cheapest one, but I might have the most experience working with big brands, and I do have a good process to deliver stuff really quickly. Earlier, you asked me about like the turnaround time for a video like this. When I was doing explainer videos, like 2D explainer videos, it took easily like 3 weeks to produce something. Like someone having to like draw stuff, even when you do template stuff, there's so much things that has to work for it to be like produced within like a shorter period. But with 3D animation, I can make the skateboard animation you saw, that was made in a day. Not
Yeah,
even
wow.
a day. So that's like 3D modeling, lighting, animation, camera, and then editing and putting sound on it.
We might, just so people listening, Carl, we might post all the links in this show when it goes on YouTube. We'll post all the reels that we're kind of discussing in there, so people can kind of see your show reel, kind of what you do, and see whether it'll be a good fit for their ecom business as well.
Yeah. I'd love to, like, if anyone who's listening to this, if you just want to jump on a chat, like not like a sales sort of talk, if you just want feedback or ideas on how you can do it better, I'd love to do that. I'd love to talk to people.
So basically, what you said. So your strategy is like so go through the three things you said again. You had the teaser video, the
Yeah, you start with the hook video, the tease
yeah,
video, and then reveal.
yeah. And what part of the funnel would a business like kind of present that? Like, is this a new brand and these are 3 videos that you can launch the brand, or how would an established business implement those 3 in your eyes?
I would say it depends. Everything depends on their situation, what they want to do. What I usually ask is, what's your goal for the coming 6 months? What do you want to achieve? And then what would the implications be if you couldn't get to that goal? What would that mean to you? What would it mean to you if you could solve that problem? How would that feel for you? Like economically, time, energy, whatever that is. And it depends so much on that if I tell you to do like a hook, tease, and reveal video specifically, where that would work the best probably is when you have a new product or new flavor or new whatever you want to launch.
Yeah.
Then you come up with a fun idea, something that sort of takes people out of their like day-to-day sort of monotonous, I don't know, life. If you can get them to get out of that and then like, oh, what is this? You know, everyone's seen like the one video. Everyone can think of like a video they've seen where you're like, oh, that was crazy. Have you seen that fun video? And you sort of share it with people. That's what you're aiming to do. But I mean, if you talk to Celsius, they're going to do a specific type of video. It's usually really quick. It's supposed to be like this, bam, 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 bam. Energy,
Yeah,
high
TikTok stuff.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go and look at, I don't know, Prada or Gucci, they're going to have a different sort of tempo, and it's going to be,
Yeah.
it's usually really weird stuff. Like people without like a theme sort of, it feels like they have an idea behind it, obviously, but it's like themeless. They're like floating in this crazy sort of bubble.
So
Oh, when
if we brainstorm something, like Charles and I both have auto parts companies. Like, but they sell like a lot of different parts for cars and things like that. If we were to say, hey, like you should add an animation video to your suite or whatever to post on your socials, like so if we came to you, we're the auto parts company, like what does that look like? So we sit down and you're asking us kind of what we want to get from it. Like if I come to you and said, look, I just want something that I can post on socials that's going to get like the most amount of views possible, with cool kind of animations. Like where does that conversation kind of progress from there for potentially a car company that has, a product SKU of, 10,000 products or something? Because I can see how it works with Celsius. They've got kind of that one focused product, but a lot of the larger e-commerce stores, they're almost like retail stores. Like what would be the angle, would you think, for something like that?
I would. I love this stuff, by the way. The brainstorming. Do you want to do like an example, maybe? I'll do like a test brainstorm. So you're what did you call it? Like auto parts company.
Yeah.
So what kind of products do you sell usually? Like what's the one that is like your cash cow?
It's very,
Just
because
make
it's kind of
something
like,
up. It's
yeah, okay, like car headlights.
car headlights. All right. So do you sell a lot of these? Like what do people usually buy them for? Like what's the reason? Because there's different sort of
Yeah,
values,
so
right?
I'd say probably four-wheel driving, like going through jungle areas late at night, like kind of bush bashing stuff. So yeah, like high quality headlights for their four-wheel drive.
So it's like an add-on to your car.
Yeah, it can be both, so they can
Yeah.
swap out their actual lights, but yeah, there's a lot of kind of add-ons for high beam stuff. And basically, if you're out, at least in Australia anyway, out in the wild, stop you hitting kangaroos and things like that at night too.
All right. Well, stay away from like killing animals, but
Sales just tank after that video.
they're always going to be like the obvious stuff that you're never going to do. Yeah. So I imagine like,
Maybe we could keep the animal in their car, and the animation can be the car stopping just before hitting the animal with these amazing lights and the animation.
yeah. So I have an idea now. So imagine what we see, we're in the jungle, it's middle of the night, and you see like just a beam sort of scanning across like the foliage and like the trees and like the mud, and you see like it's like listening, and you hear this truck coming closer and closer, and you like switch from different sort of angles, and you like close up to the headlights, you see like sexy shot on the headlights, and like like the halo effect from like on the camera and everything, and it's like bouncing you like close up on the wheel, like bouncing on in the mud, and then you see something coming out like scuttling out from the bushes and like stopping, like deer in the headlights sort of thing, but it's a human. And then you cut over to the driver, the seat of the car, and it's a kangaroo or a deer. It's like a weird sort of thing, but you start with like a nice looking shot. So like something that hooks in, like, what is this, sort of like a question mark thing. I call it like the open loop. You want to close the loop before you end the video. What is this going to be? What's the story here?
That would actually be, I think, a really cool video.
Yeah.
Where would that fit in for your
Animate.
three? Would you say that's in part of your 3 video thing? Would you say it's kind of the hook, the teaser, or what was the last one? I always forget the last one.
I would say that's the hook. That's setting the context. You set the context for the video, or like for the series of videos that's going to come out. So now you have this, maybe you've seen like the headlights, but it's like in the dark, and it's like, it's kind of obscured. Maybe it's like, it's supposed to be in like a muddy environment. So maybe it's like covered with mud and like a leaf sticking out or something. This depends on if the company is okay with like the brand. But in this scenario, yeah, the company is okay with it. It's fun. Like it's part of their brand. So the second video, so let's do something like crazy in the same sort of theme. You're still in this environment. You want to do something like, you're teasing. So like the second one would be almost like a picture, like a still image, but you're like zooming in closely to, you see like the headlights on this sort of truck, this Jeep. and it's like cool sort of angle. You're slowly zooming into it. So that's just something to like keep the retention of like following the story. And then the final one, I would do like like a really sexy Apple-esque animation where you start with the truck, like maybe doing like a pan, like a dolly sort of pan or like a dolly zoom or something, and then the headlights sort of fly up in the air and it makes this sort of flower effect. You have like 5 different or 6 different
Yeah.
lamps, and you're like zooming in, you see like every sort of a crispy edge. Now it's like studio quality, like high-end, no scratch or anything. And you do that like between different things, and then it ends up sort of lands on like a podium or something. And then it sort of says the name or whatever.
Lands in the kangaroo's pouch.
You can do that as well. The reveal video never needs to be on theme as much as that other stuff, but
I think that's a really cool example
can.
of how a brand could use 3 videos and animation to promote their products. And I think that's what a lot of people want to conceptualize and think about. Like, especially, I definitely think like this approach is probably like very heavily weighted to like companies that have a hero product. Like, because even that car part, like the headlights would have to be like a hero product, because then they're like, okay, well, we've done this, unless they were willing to do it across like another 20 different SKUs to like highlight their whole
Yeah,
business. Whereas if
I'm
you've got
voting for the 20 different SKUs.
yeah, exactly.
I get more work.
Unless you've got a business like something like BlendJet or something like that, they do some cool videos where they send the BlendJet up to space and things like that. Like if you can just conceptualize all those videos around one product, I think it's going to have definitely longevity in the marketplace because that's your hero product. But yeah, I think because I obviously work with a lot of high SKU businesses, them deciding, like a lot of them don't have that one kind of hero product, so they'd have to come to you and get 50 videos.
You don't have to actually. You can make one product into a hero product for that month, and then you just
Yeah,
change to another hero product. So look at this as campaigns. When you see like I don't know,
that's a good
like
way
a
to look at
grocery
it.
store or something, like making a fun video. Like that happens a lot in Sweden at least, where they choose like a product from their product line, and then they make something crazy with it, like spend way too much, what it looks like way too much money on like this one stupid product. Would like the more stupid the better. That's what I think. Maybe they do like one chocolate bar, but that chocolate bar like so there's a company like a grocery store here in like a supermarket in Sweden that started a not reality show like what do you call that? What's that called? Like the kind of show like Modern Family, Friends, like that kind of show.
Yeah, it's like a reality
Sitcom.
sitcom.
A
Yeah.
sitcom, yeah. They started a sitcom with real Swedish actors that has been running for at least 10 years now. And it's on TV, it's on social media, and they just keep playing with different sort of scenarios in this grocery store or like this supermarket.
Yeah.
And every time, every episode, it's like it's funny as well. They're so open with like, well, this episode is about bread. So he's like holding bread the whole time, but they're like in some sort of drama. So he's like standing there with bread. Oh, I wish more more people could know how good this bread is. Like, the kind of stuff. It's not
Yeah.
3D animation, but
I feel
I'm
like
not sort of pushing everyone to do 3D animation. That's a cheap way to do it. If you wanna do that, that's cheaper than going and like filming something and then editing.
will you be so? This is a bit off topic, Carl. But for those who don't know, like you had your own NFT project, Business Ducks. Will you be doing more kind of your own animations around that and the storytelling kind of realm, or is that
Yeah.
kind of on the side bench for you at the moment?
It's not my number one focus because it takes time to do an animated series, but that's what the plan is right now. I'm working on a pilot episode for the business ducks from the NFT. So there's a show about this. Do you want like I don't know how interested this is, but do you want like a brief explanation of what that is,
Yeah,
what
I
it's
want to know
about?
how you're going to promote it. It's the same thing. Like you basically your product is the NFT like line. Like what kind of series and stuff are you going to do to make that would bring light to it? I guess it's a similar thing. It's basically its own product.
It started as an NFT project just because I had to do something, had to have
Amazing
something to
designer. You
do.
may as well.
Yeah. And I was taking a break from my animation, like my explainer video business at the time. And so I started drawing ducks and decided to draw 1,000 ducks. Realized really quickly 1,000 ducks, like hand-drawn ducks, it's a lot of ducks, takes a long time. Started calculating how long this is going to take. I'm like, this is going to be years at this point. I got to about 500, I think. And then I decided to, like, it's 555. It's like a good round number. But then it went from me drawing like the ducks and NFT. I wanted to have some sort of reason why you should own one of these ducks. I started making, like shirts and like merch for the company. But then I decided to make an animated video or like an animated show, like an animated series, like Simpsons sort of thing. And the show is about a duck called Duncan Drake. And it's like Indiana Jones-esque, Tomb Raider-esque sort of story with time travel and eternal life sort of stuff, aliens.
I really want to see one. Like, if as soon as the episode drops, like, I want to see it. I think about, like, obviously Gary Vee's heavily into the NFT scene as well, but he brought out an animated video. I forget I think it was called Little V or something, and it was about like a kid selling slime at high school. And I must have watched it like 2 years ago, and I still think about that video all the time. I'm like, that was such a cool video. I want to see what you do with Business Ducks. I think it would be cool as well.
Send the latest version of the animatic. It's so far from finished. It takes so long, and it's like there might not be money in it at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you do it for the labor of the love, that project, definitely. But
yeah.
So we've been speaking about kind of AI a lot in the last couple of weeks on the show, Carl. Like, how is AI going to affect kind of that industry? Will it speed up processes for you in terms of animation or anything else that you do? And are you experimenting with it at the moment, or what?
I like in the creative field, like a lot of people are really pissed off at AI. Did you know
I
this?
bet.
It's but we've been using it at the production company. We started using it in January, and we use it for like everything. But it's not in the way where what people think it is. Where what people think, or what I've heard that people think, like the ones that talk to me that are pissed off, what they think it is like it's gonna replace your creativity and everything's just gonna be like a prompt, and then you get the video. We've used it for the past year, and we use it we use it a lot, like for everything. But it's just to
which
speed
AI
up
specifically? Is it their particular
all of them.
model? All of them? Yeah.
It's Midjourney, ChatGPT, Runway, Sora, Udio, 11 Labs, like all of them, like all the creative ones. But it's at this point, I've been reflecting on this so much. We use it for like background images in a 3D animation, for example. Or if I want to find like a sound effect, I just go into Udio. I'm like, oh, this sound effect. I want a popcorn sort of sound. It's like, oh, it makes me a popcorn sound. I want a theme song for this thing. Something that I would get from, what's it called? Epidemic Sound, for example. Do you know this?
Yeah, like a marketplace or something like that.
Yeah, marketplace for sound that I already paid for.
Yeah.
So I do that, but then I use Udio for other sounds as well. I see it as like elevating whatever I'm working on.
Yeah, I agree.
And even in the like Coca-Cola ads and stuff. Have you seen this latest like Christmas Coca-Cola ad?
No, I haven't seen it.
There's so much post-processing in that video. It's crazy. They sell it as like an fully AI video.
Oh, is that the one with the trucks like going through the snow?
Yeah.
I think I have seen it. Yeah, I have seen it actually. And then I did
Yeah.
read somewhere that it was done by AI. Is that true?
Yeah. It's not done by AI. It's done by creatives who use AI. But it's so like when I look at it, because I've been in, I can, you get like a sort of like a literacy. Like I can see what's AI and what's not. And like at this point, it's getting harder to see what's AI and what's not. but it's never 100% AI. It's always like editing and post-processing and it's so much harder to use AI in some capacities. If I want to track something in an AI video, it's not a real video, so there's no tracking points. There's no tracking data. But in that video specifically, I wanted to bring up the Coca-Cola one because it's so interesting. They have a 3D animated or like a filmed video of someone opening a Coca-Cola bottle, like a glass bottle. And then right after that, it says AI generated. So from that point, everything is AI generated, but they show this as like the first sort of hook. And it's like, oh, this is AI, but it's not AI. And then like throughout the video, every time they show the Coca-Cola logo, it's superimposed onto this AI generated video. But then it's like, it's made to look really AI. So it's like, it's made like they intended to make it worse than it actually is to get like yeah.
Well, I've
It's
definitely got
crazy.
traction because I reckon that's the only Coca-Cola ad I've seen in the last 5 years. So whatever they did
Yeah.
worked.
Probably because they used AI though, isn't it? It's the storyline behind the fact that they used AI for the first time. That's probably why it got the publicity versus the fact that it was actually the best ad they did. Probably not.
They spread the word that it's AI. They told
Yeah,
everyone it's AI,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
everyone else is like, and they used lobbyists to make people pissed off as well. That's what I think.
Controversy.
But,
Yeah.
because it works.
Carl,
Like if
you should do
you get
something
the
really
word out.
high quality and then post on your socials and say this is AI, and then you'll have like 700 comments. What AI software is this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll post the skateboard animation.
Yeah.
But it's the interesting thing is like I made a campaign for my dad's company when they were last week they were looking for money, and almost everything there is AI. But there's like it comes to a point where how much is AI and how much is not AI, and we've been using AI in film production since the 80s. It's not like it's a new thing here, but everyone talks about it like it's taking over. It's the new. No, we've in 3D when you 3D scan stuff. That's photogrammetry. That's AI. Like there's so much AI that we've used, and people were pissed off when Photoshop came out as well. Like you can't use Photoshop. Everything has to be hand painted. The skill goes away. I'm like, yeah,
That's true.
my cousin can do this now. What I believe, so this is my future prediction. What's going to happen is we are here now and you see like AI come in and it gets to a higher and higher quality, but other skills in the film production industry gets to a higher quality. So every time someone can do this from their phone, the quality of the other stuff is going to come up here.
Yeah, I agree.
And then people are going to be literate to knowing what's AI voice, what's AI, and they can accept it. It's going to be a sort of a style. If you want to go with that style, that's up to you. But it's going to look like the cheap stuff, even if it looks like what we perceive as Hollywood quality now. If that's going to look like that in like a year or so, something else is going to be the top thing, or like the hand stuff and like animated or like hand painted. That's going to be the impressive stuff. So other things are going to come out of this. That is
I
different.
think some brands are even at the moment. They're like, hey, our user generated content type style that doesn't look super polished is often at times converting better than the high production quality stuff. So they're more of like, okay, we just want volume, not necessarily the best looking thing. So like rather than like one super high quality video, we just want 50 kind of user generated content quality videos.
Yeah.
And
High
yeah, so
quality
it's kind of that
user generated content is always better, actually. Converts better.
definitely 100%.
It's
Just on
real people. Like it's like a 3D animated video. It's
but
cool and all.
even now,
You can
like
get like a
they're generating AI avatars now that are doing user generated content. So it's the lines are getting blurred as well.
you can see if it's AI or not. Some people will obviously not know the difference, but yeah, I can see like it's super clear to
Yeah, I
me if
mean
it's AI.
trained eye can pick it up 100%. But then at that point the brand's like, oh, do we even care? Like that's not another piece of content out for the week, and it's like giving us more exposure. So I guess that's
Yeah.
what they're balancing at the minute. Carl, we're at the hour
to a
mark now.
point.
So if people want to chat to you, like where can they go to find you? You are inside the Shopify Marketing Secrets group, I'm pretty sure, for us
Yes.
there. So
Yeah.
yeah, if they have any questions about kind of your animated style, videos, ideas, or brainstorming, you can hit Carl up there. But where else can they reach you, Carl?
Best way to reach me is on Instagram. I think that's where I hang out the most.
Yep.
And just
What's
like
your
add
handle?
me, or like it's complicated. Caminos. So it's CAMINIOS. It's Carl
We'll
Michael
put it
Nils
in the show.
Oscar.
We'll put it.
Yeah, we'll stick it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
all
man.
I have a lot of names. It's like Carl Michael Nils Oscar. It's like the first two letters in each one.
I wanted to thank you for coming on, man. It's probably one of my your first guest, so it's kind of a chance for me and Charles to get to like pick someone else's brain. So hope you don't feel like we've just kind of bombarded you with questions for an hour. But yeah, I learned a lot, and I think people in ecom that want to look at kind of adding animation styles to either their launches or kind of their product categories or things like that should definitely have a chat to you and see what they can do with you, man. Because yeah, I know your work's high quality. And I'm not sure if you've seen it, Carl, but Charles has just recently launched his directory of kind of people in the e-commerce space that he trusts, and you're on there. So if people want to check out Charles's directory as well, they can find some links to you on there as well.
Yep. Got to add you on, Carl.
Yeah. Awesome having a chat today. Always as fun every time to talk to you guys. I wish I could have asked you a few questions as well, but we'll get to that another time.
We'll get you on
We'll
again.
do-
You can ask us whatever you want.
You can ask us off air, Carl, as well.
You've got the link to our show. It's this time every week. So if you want to pop in and ask some questions, just paste that link in your browser and join the call.
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we'll wrap it there and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks, Carl.
All right.
Cheers,
Thank
Carl.
you.